Hi, I'm Mitch Gallagher. Welcome to Sweetwater's iOS update. This time out, a notation app from Kawai. Let's get started. Our app today is Touch Notation from Kawai, an amazingly comprehensive notation program that's very easy to operate. Let's take a tour of some of the basic functions inside this app. You can use Touch Notation to create everything from lead sheets to very complex scores. There are all sorts of symbols in there, and it recognizes your handwriting. I'm going to use a stylus, but you could use your finger as well for inputting notes, expressions, dynamics, articulations, changing the layout, copying, pasting. All of those functions are available inside this app. So let's take a tour of some of the functionality inside this app. We'll begin by creating a new score. We'll open the library page, and in this page, across the top, we have some controls here. Here's where we create a new score. You can look at the scores you already have. You can delete a score, go to editing a score. There's a cart for in-app purchases. For example, you can have chord names inside this. You can have audio accompaniment. You can add different sound sets. So there are some in-app purchases available as well. And the question mark is your manual for the app. So we'll create our score by simply clicking the plus button. Once we've clicked the plus sign, we have a variety of options here for setting up our score. You can choose a template for a type of score. You can create user templates. You can look at a preview, choose the font, put the title in, the tempo, the key signature. So a lot of things you can do right from this page. I'm just going to leave it at its defaults right now. So we'll click Done. Once you've created your score, you're presented with basically a blank piece of music notation paper. You can change the title by simply circling, clicking the property button, and then when we click the title name, you can type in the title that you want. We'll just name this Song. Click our Done, and our song title appears at the top. Across the top, we have what are called the circle controls, and these allow us to affect different parameters and also change playback and some of the other settings for the song. The first circle sets whether we're doing note entry or memo entry, and we'll look at memos a little bit later. The second one sets up either song parameters, or we can also change the key. This is our undo or redo. So you can see that our song title is we're undoing it and we're redoing it. This is our playback. So if we push this, our song will play back. Or we can pull that, we can rewind to the beginning. If we pull up, we can open up some of our settings. For example, over here, we have volume control, pan control, and this is where you choose the sound that will play back for a particular staff. Up here, we can set up a hall reverb effect. We can loop our playback so that it will repeat when we're working on our song, change the tempo, and turn a metronome on and off as well. Finally, we have a volume control down here, as well as a pan control. This circle allows us to navigate. So when we're zoomed in, we can scroll back and forth across our page and look at the measures that we want to look at, or you can look at the next page in the piece as well, using that circle. The final circle is either our help menu, where we can open up and look at a variety of different topics that help us work with the app. You can also access the support page from here. We can look at different settings for the app, score editing settings, autosave, playback settings, those types of things are there. We also can look at what's called palm rest or palm protect. This allows you to rest your hand on the screen while still entering notes without it having to detect your palm resting on there as an actual note entry. And finally, we can go back to our library page where we can create a new song and do those sorts of things again. So we'll go back to editing. Entering notation is very simple. You just draw on the screen using the exact same notational symbols you would use if you were working with paper. So let's take a look at this. We'll double click to zoom in on our measure. Now to enter a quarter note, for example, we just draw a slash. We can add a flag for an eighth note. We can add a rest by simply drawing it in there. We can add an eighth rest. So all sorts of symbols can be input just by drawing. We can dot a note by just tapping. We can add an accent. We can also add slurs, ties. We can add first, second endings. You can add repeat measures. Very simple to input things and create exactly the score that you want. Now we aren't limited to just one staff here either. We can zoom back out. We can add a second staff by simply adding a plus or a third. We can enter musical expressions by writing a simple E. And now we can type in whatever expression we want. In fact, if we type in a letter, for example A, it'll give us a number of different expressions that relate to that. So for example, we could have adagio, or we can click Andante. It'll put that right in there for us. Click Done, and it'll place it properly. You can even, with an in-app purchase, add chords. So if we do a C here, it will open up and give us the option of putting in a chord name. And we have a variety of different chord types available to us. So we could put in a G sus 2. Click Done, and it will give us our chord name on there as well. So it really is comprehensive. We can also cut, copy, and paste material. You can do individual items, you can do measures, whole lines, a variety of different things that you can copy and paste. And you do that by simply circling the material that you want to work with. So if we circle this note, and we can now cut, copy, and delete that as well as paste it. The other thing we can do is while it's selected, we can drag it up and down to change the pitch. At any time, we can move the stem up and down by simply drawing, and again, we can change that to a different note value if we like. So it's very flexible for inputting material as well as editing it to make it look exactly the way that you want. Now, if you do something like this where you change the note value, this setting up here will actually redistribute the notes properly for their rhythmic values within the measure. So it'll even keep things aligned for you properly. As I mentioned earlier, it's also possible to add memos to your scores. So if you're working in a rehearsal and you need to make a quick change, you can draw right on the screen and do that. You access that by flicking over here. The red dot will appear, and when you drag that out, it will show you some of the different options that are available. For example, line thickness. So the way I have this set up now, we can draw here, we can choose a thicker line. We can also choose the color for our notations. If we just tap here a single time, color palette will open up. We could choose black, and you could write on this, you can draw. Again, you can set the line width that you like, choose a different color for another notation. So it's very easy to add memos and make notes of things that you want to change later. There's lots and lots more that we can have here. There's auto accompaniment. So if we go in here, open up our song settings, we can turn on auto accompaniment. And if you purchase that using in-app, you have a variety of different styles available to you. We can choose jazz funk here to go along with our composition. And now when we play back, we'll get accompaniment along with our song. Now when you've completed your song, you can export it. So if we click here to open our library back up, click the export button, and with a choice of 4 different file types, we can do eScore, which is proprietary to Kawai. You can do a standard MIDI file, you can export as a PDF file, or as a music XML file. Now with music XML, you can take that export and open it up in a computer notation program and continue to work on it. You can mail your exported file, or you can choose to open it inside another app. One thing I'd like to see added in a future version is the ability to export into an MP3 file. So you could just take an audio example from your score and have it ready to play in another app or on your computer. There's so much more we could talk about, but the great thing about touch notation is how easy it is to use. You simply draw. You get used to doing the different gestures that you need for creating the different symbols, for adding notations, for adding expressions and things. You can work very quickly, create complex scores that really do look great. If you're looking for an app to allow you to quickly get ideas down on your iPad, or even to go much further and create a completed score, Touch Notation is a great way to go. It's an inexpensive app, and there are 4 in-app purchases available. Now one of those that you'll probably want is the chord symbol and auto accompaniment. Another one allows you to play back through core MIDI using another app. So there are a couple of useful in-app purchases that you want to take a look at, and those are inexpensive as well. You may have noticed that for today's app I was using a stylus to work with the screen. Now I have classical guitar player fingernails, so sometimes drawing on the screen doesn't work real well for me. So I find in that situation a stylus works really well. But for this type of an app, I also find it's useful for entering different notations and things, especially with the palm guard turned on. You can rest your hand and make very fine notations, just as if you're writing on a piece of paper. I hope you've enjoyed this installment of Sweetwater's iOS Update. Be sure to tune in next time. We'll have more apps, more hardware accessories, and more tech tips on making music with your iOS devices. I'm Mitch Gallagher.